on, I got a question. Who threw a wiener in the ring?
It's time for another wrestling podcast. All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Guys, I got blocked again on Twitter.
I'm your mark of marks.
That's the most reliable source on the interwebs.
The social assassin at your disposal, bitches.
A hot dog. Can you believe that they threw a fucking hot dog in the ring? That's what you get, man. I mean, you wanted to make a stand on the first night of AEW. You're the guy that threw the wiener in the ring, man. Guys, another wrestling podcast happening again. This is it, guys. This is one of the biggest weeks in wrestling. We've been waiting for it. We've been talking about it for weeks. A full-blown week. We got new series premieres of the same show, just a different color, different set, different graphics. But the biggest thing happening this week, guys, was the Wednesday Night Wars, which unofficially being dubbed. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Angry Cooter, Minority Mike, back in the house again, guys. It's good to be back in full force.
Yeah, I mean, I took some time off. I needed a break from life. Had a lot of stuff going on, but I'm happy to be back to talk about these Wednesday Night Wars that I absolutely loved.
I loved some of it. I hated most of it.
And
we're going to get into well, yeah, he knew this was coming. I like to nitpick and just wait. I got some good shit for you.
And that's what's interesting today, guys. So if you're just joining us, so what did everybody do? Were you switching back and forth? Did you watch AEW first? Did you watch NXT first? Well, we did not plan this. I know it might seem like it, but we did not plan it.
This was great.
I watched AEW for the first time. Like I had AEW on. I wanted to watch that first. Cooter, you did NXT first. You watched that first.
Yes,
and then Mike, you were the one who went back and forth or had them both playing at the same time.
I did. Yeah.
So this is great because this right here will bring the whole show together. We're gonna go over our first time experiences, just these shows going back and forth for the first time. So that's a very unique dynamic because once again we didn't plan that; it just happened to be. But guys, stay tuned because what we do have on the show today is Darby Allin, AEW's Darby Allin, who actually had the first dark match of AEW on TNT, so we'll be talking to him a little bit about everything. Jonathan Benjamin will be sitting down with Darby Allin, so stay tuned for that one in a little bit. But guys, the ratings came out today. It's Thursday. We're recording this Thursday. I mean, we still have SmackDown on Fox, the brand new, the launch over there for WWE on Fox tomorrow, and then we got Hell in a Cell this weekend. But if we waited, there's no free time in between any of these shows to actually record the show, so we're doing it now, guys. So we didn't get to SmackDown yet. We didn't get to Hell in a Cell, so let's at least talk about what just happened this week. And WWE came out with this statement, guys. It was right before the ratings were announced, and the statement reads, "Congratulations to AEW on a successful premiere. The real winners of last night's head-to-head telecasts of NXT on USA Network and AEW on TNT are the fans, who can expect Wednesday nights to be a competitive and wild ride, as this is a marathon, not a one-night sprint." Is that a fucking Vince McMahon statement? Or who? I mean, is that kind of like, did they need to acknowledge AEW? Is somebody shaking over at Titan Towers or what? What kind of statement is this, guys?
This was a fuck you got lucky, and just wait for it. You can't keep this up forever, and eventually we're going to win. That's the kind of statement to me, how it sounds like. Congrats. Yes, you won the sprint, but in the long haul, let's see if you can, go the distance. And it's an interesting statement, as opposed to what we've been hearing, out of the AEW camps where, oh, it's not a war. But then you got somebody like, Kenny Omega saying some dumb shit about the competition. And, it is what it is. But interesting, to say the least. And I don't think it's something that Vince would want to do, because he just seems like the kind of person who has too much pride to acknowledge that, yes, we lost in our first week.
Yeah, I don't think that's a Vince statement at all. Vince doesn't seem like that. He's the guy that wanted to go to Nitro to beat the shit out of Eric Bischoff, I don't remember. So I definitely don't think that he's the guy that put that statement out. The public relations probably, or the human resources, they probably did all that stuff just to kind of stay face and, just to give them the nod. That, it also tells them that they are aware that they are competition now, and now this is going to be, as they said, people don't say it's a competition, but they just use the word competitive every Wednesday. So that right there tells me that they are aware that AEW is a competition. I don't think they see him as a threat, but they do see him as competition, and I think both parties are going to strive.
No, for sure. I mean, so it's an exciting week. I mean, this is what we built up to. I mean, it's kind of different. Both shows were different, and let's talk about that right off the bat. I mean, I'm going to give you my point of view of AEW when I first started. Some of the things I saw. I'm not giving you a whole match-to-match analysis, but just I put AEW on. This is what I got out of it. Maybe you guys could tell me if you agree, you disagree, or maybe what you got out of it too. But guys, so I tuned on AEW first. Now, Mike, I almost started NXT. I think I tried doing it on my phone, and then it was just too much work. I couldn't concentrate on both, so I was like, screw it. Let me stick with AEW. Right off the bat, it's still, I said it before and I'll say it again, it has that WCW vibe. Just the lights, the look of it, the way it's being presented. I mean, it's got to be the same guys who probably did the production for WCW, but it just looks like WCW to me, and that's not a bad thing. It definitely has the night and day feel. So this is AEW, that's WWE. So I like the difference of it, and it wasn't a surprise to us because we kind of been we've seen the past few pay-per-views of AEW, so we've already kind of seen a look that they were going for. And then, this is their first weekly show. So I liked it. The pyro, I'll tell you, and this is not against AEW or WWE, but the pyro for both shows, just the pyro. I mean, I'm expecting the boom, 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 boom. And it was more like, psst, it wasn't as loud. Like, I know they had to tone down some fire because they don't want a big scene, but when you say pyro, I'm expecting like the stage to catch fire on what they used to do in the 90s. Like those are some pyro entrances, but regardless, guys, it's back. I'm happy. The music, I think Mikey said too, the music could have used some work, but I mean it's not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, so watching it for the first time, I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I'm glad to see, it made me interested in seeing next week kind of thing. And I think one of the good things they did do is they had a good use of talent that night to where we didn't put every guy on the show because this is a weekly show now. We didn't use everybody at first. So, I mean, they didn't use no Darby, no Luchasaurus, no Joey Janela's, right? So, I think that is the smart thing for them to do because next week, then you bring those guys on. And then you go back and forth to where if they balance their talent out like that, especially since they only have one show, it's not a monster like WWE, they need to use their talent like that from week to week and balance it back and forth with that. The biggest surprise, though, of the night, Jake Hager, Jack Swagger. All right. I don't hate him. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he would have been that big of a surprise to save him for the show, but I guess okay. I mean, a little bit of a surprise. And then lastly, I mean, the AEW Women's Championship, which they debuted. Holy cow! You need a magnifying glass for that. I know they're trying to go old school with like some of the old school women belts used to look like, but that is a tiny belt. Especially if Nyla Rose would have won that, because that would have been. I mean, all right, she won this. Like, I know the women aren't on the same level, or I don't know what they're doing with the belt there. It's kind of tiny for my taste, but guys, overall, AEW, I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I'm not knocking it. I like that it's a great alternative to NXT. I don't know. I think it's a different kind of. It's a different kind of food, a different kind of entree. I would eat both, but at the same time, you can't compare them to each other, So, especially with AEW traveling to big arenas, and then NXT's, I'm sure Mike, you'll talk about it later, is in a smaller place. But overall, guys, any points on there? I mean, how did you feel about your first AEW experience? Any points you want to bring out?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, watching it back and forth with NXT, it reminded me so much of when I was a kid watching the Attitude Era. And the Monday Night Wars, where I had a TV that had the picture-in-picture, and I would have one TV on the small or one show on the small picture, and then something else that interests me on the big picture. Except I don't have that option, so I have to literally have an iPad and the TV, and I have another TV in my bedroom. So it was kind of like whatever I saw interest me, I would flip to. When it came to comparing the openings, I thought NXT had the better opening package. They made it seem like it was a big deal, where AEW kind of just dived right into it and went right into their show opening. It was an experience though, but I did enjoy the show. There's a lot of minor things I picked out of it, but other than that, I thought it was a good debut show. I was not a fan of the Jake Hager surprise. That really didn't do anything for me. But other than that, it basically was a good show. It was a good debut.
Yeah. I know Cooter's waiting to tell us how he thinks.
I've been waiting for this day for so long.
Right, well, how did you feel? I mean, did you like it? Did you enjoy
want
it?
some honesty? It was a decent show. I'm not going to say it was like a great show, and I'm not going to say it was the drizzling shits. It's somewhere in the middle there. It's a decent show at best. For an opener, for like your first, okay. Cody and Sammy opening up was awesome. I thought, to me, since the inception of the promotion, everything Cody touches is gold. I can't hate on him. And, he definitely built up Sammy. I can't pronounce his last name.
Guevara.
I got this Polish accent. It just doesn't work.
I'm waiting for the but, Cooter. Is there a but in all this?
I want to give. Listen, our therapist says you have to start with love. Okay? So I want to say MJF did an amazing job establishing who he is and what he is. To me, still probably one of, if not the best heel in the business today. There's a lot of hypocrisy that I see from the promotion and its fans. So let's start off with, if we have one of these cross-promotion segments on Raw, like the Kevin Smith thing, I know I get it. You're, helping them plug their movie. But if we had Chris Lee in the crowd promoting the fact that his show is coming up next, we would be shitting all over it. We would be. The other thing I want to point out, the SCU segment out in DC, that's some corny ass shit too, that if WWE did that, these smart marks who hate everything WWE does would be hating on that. And here's something else. The Lucha Brothers come out, start beating up on SCU, right? And the refs come out to break it up. You going to tell me that 130-pound female ref is going to hold back Christopher Daniels in the middle of a fight? You got to be fucking kidding me.
I still love how she dove in there, though.
Oh, of course. But come on now. All right, let me turn the page here. Yo, does Kevin Smith have AIDS?
He's got notes.
I took notes. I did. I took some notes.
No, he's just lost a lot of weight, I think. I think Jay looks worse than Kevin, to be honest.
Yes, well, that's heroin. That happens. I did enjoy Page. Adam Page he's starting to grow on me. He's got to show a little bit more personality. But every time I see him, I see James Storm.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, but dude, I felt so bad for Jim Ross having to keep saying the undefeated MMA fighter Jake Hager. If we're going by that model, motherfucker, I'm an undefeated MMA fighter. Okay, he had one fighting a fucking tomato can in Bellator. But listen,
two tomato cans.
Two tomato cans. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, he had enough to make some sauce. Great. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Undefeated, though. The record.
Undefeated MMA fighter Jake Hager.
You gotta slip that in there. They forgot to mention that one of the guys that he fought was Donkey Lips.
Donkey Lips from
Salute Your Shorts. He fought him.
Oh, that's right.
Forgot to mention that. And the other guy was like a 40, 50-something-year-old man. It's terrible. Go on. I digress.
But you know what, dude? The fact that Darby Allin was not on this show bothers me, and I feel like they had to pull out all of their big guns. So we had to have the Bucks, we had to have Cody, we had to have fucking that boring and that Kenny Omega fucking shit. Listen, here's the other thing that drove me nuts about this. Was that last match a no DQ match?
I know where you're going with this, and I agree with you on this.
I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. We got John Moxley coming into the ring and beating his ass in front of the ref. Yet we still have now we got a 3-on-2. I mean, and I was loving Ortiz and Santana. If you were gonna do this, let's like put Jake Hager like I don't know, selling popcorn or something, and let's have Moxley come in.
He could have been in the VIP room. He could have been in the VIP room and opened the door and like.
God. But it's the VIP section. Oh my God! Stop. Well, it was just some really, really corny shit, and it just like I get like I'm nitpicking, but overall the wrestling was good, the production was pretty damn good, but just when you said it seemed like WCW, the one thing that you forgot to mention is they also booked it like WCW.
Oh, there you go.
Like,
yeah.
It's just shit that you would look at and be like, why the fuck would you do that?
A few growing pains, I hear you.
Yeah.
The one thing that stands out for me, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, maybe if you feel the same way at home, I still can't get over the fact that, okay, when I see Cody wrestle, when I see the Bucks wrestle, or Omega, it's still in the back of my mind that I'm a VP. Cody wins. Of course he wins. He's a VP. And you know what I mean? I can't appreciate his win knowing the fact that I know that it's his company. You know what I mean? Like, if they would have just kayfabed and never told anybody that they're really VPs of the company, that's fine. But like now, every time I see it and every time they get pushed, that's all I'm saying in my head is like, well, of course it's your. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That just resonates with me a little bit to where I can't get it over it until something happens or whatever happens. But that's every time I see a win by one of these guys or something, I'm like, of course they're putting themselves in the spotlight. They're the vice president or whatever. So it's nothing big.
I have one thing I want to throw out there. I don't know if Cooter, if you had this on your list or not, but one thing that kind of did stand out to me is the fact that I personally felt like they had issues or trouble kind of transitioning to and from commercials. Like when they went to commercials, it kind of just they didn't really have like how Michael Cole. Everybody shits on Michael Cole, but he's actually good on transitioning into a commercial break and then coming back from a commercial break. As JR and the other guys, it just didn't seem natural to where like they would just literally say they're going to commercial and then all of a sudden like literally 30 seconds later they go. Or I don't know. It's just weird things like that. I don't know if you guys noticed that too or not.
Well, I mean, that's growing pains because you got to remember, JR and Giovanni haven't worked together since, 90, 91, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
And you throw in Excalibur, and it's who's worked with JR a few times now. So, what happened to the Golden Boy or whatever his fucking name is? Is he just doing pay-per-views or?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're doing with the commentating team. They have a lot of play-by-play guys.
Yeah.
And not enough color guys.
I think we'll get into that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned this too, and we'll get into that a little later. But that's one thing that stood out to me the most too.
Well, Cooter, I mean, that was some first-hand experience. I think the overall consensus is we all enjoyed it. Nothing, little nitpicky things, but I think we're going to tune in next week, kind of a thing. So, but Cooter, you started with NXT. Tell us your first-hand experience because you watched NXT first.
I have to stay faithful to the brand that so far has earned my live rights, I like to call them. You know what I mean? There's a lot of television shows that I watch. One I'm watching live, but something else is, I can watch that later. I'm going to DVR it. I'll check it out on Hulu. So, I mean, they've earned my live rights, and they opened up with a title match. They went balls to the wall. I mean, Matt Riddle and Adam Cole tore this shit down. And the one thing that I noticed was that match was over at exactly 8:20. And they said that they were going to be commercial free for the first half hour. So in that half hour, you had that. You had the Finn Balor. You had the Balor surprise. You had a Candice versus Shayna package. You had quick segments of them like warming up. You had Velveteen Dream's promo, and you could have gone to a commercial right there. And I'm thinking, wow, it's 8:30. They didn't. But Velveteen Dream was pretty much done at exactly 8:30. It was just really good timing. They were just so on point. dude, Mia Yim, where the fuck did she come from? The more I see her, the more I want to see her more. And this new attitude from Io Shirai, they don't throw somebody out there that I feel like is going to bore me. Every match on this card, even the non-advertised ones, like Dunn and Danny Burch, just stuff that I really, really enjoy. There's not a segment on here that I'm like, I didn't really like. The one thing that I did have, the one gripe I had, was they promoted the whole Ciampa thing at the end, and he came out at the end. I would have had him come out after the title match where Balor did and save the Balor surprise for the end of the show, especially since he wasn't really saying much. He just had a quick I am NXT thing, and that would have really been cool, I think. A great way to close the show. That's my one knock on it. Overall, I mean, I like the studio feel of it. I like the darkness of the crowd, so you're more focused on the wrestling. People are, they keep saying, well, AEW, they got these huge crowds. It looks more impressive. Yeah, but if I wanted to watch that, I could watch Raw or SmackDown. This is a completely different show, a completely different animal, and that's why I'm watching it. It's my alternative to the same old same, For somebody who said that they weren't going to be like Raw or SmackDown, they certainly took a lot of pages out of their playbook, whereas NXT seemed like and stayed true to their model. So, really good show.
Yeah, I'll go back to Finn Balor because that was, I think one of the surprises that everybody was talking about of who's going to go to NXT or who's going to go to SmackDown, Raw, whatever. But he said, for now, I'm NXT or whatever. So I think that's obvious. He's going to be there for a few, working with those guys down there, and just another name to add to NXT. I don't hate it. I really wish he was used a lot better on the main roster, if you will, or the other shows, just pushed a lot bigger than what he was. But I think this will be a nice recharge for Finn Balor. Maybe just get rid of the stupid demon thing and just come out with paint every week. You know what I mean? Like, I love the Finn Balor of old, the Prince Devitt of old, of every pay-per-view or every show or whatever was a different body paint, and that was like almost the allure to him. Like, he didn't need to be a demon. They dressed him up in like Mardi Gras garb and to pretend to be a demon, to where the Fiend right now is taking that demon spot, if you will. Keep Finn Balor, make Finn Balor great again, make Finn Balor the reason why you hired him. Not just for his talent, but for that paint, man. I want to see something like that was his thing. Bring that back. I think a lot of other people want to see the different body paint. I know it's not marketable, where you can't make action figures and whatnot. But if you're gonna put the demon up against the Fiend's like a lot more scarier or crazier than what Balor was doing. Just, I don't know, make Balor great again, and that's what I hope NXT will do with that. So I'm excited that he's back down in NXT for who knows how long, even if it's just for a few months, or I don't know, just a few good programs. I'm happy for that.
They cut his hair real short too. They basically gave him the crew cut.
He just got married, so I think he kind of got cleaned up for all that.
Yeah, he shaved his head. As I remember, he posted something like a month ago when he shaved his head.
It's a better look for him, I think.
Yeah. A nice little recharge, but I don't know. That was the one thing that stood out for me. I'm interested. I'm interested now to see what they're going to do with him.
All right, now let me throw this question out to you guys, because we were kind of talking about this during the group chat. It was a point that I had made where, like I said earlier, they say that the crowd looks more impressive in terms of AEW. Do we think with that roster they're going to be able to continue to sell out big arenas like that? Because that's part of the reason why people are saying, oh, wow, yeah, it just looks like a better show. But can they continue to do that with the roster that they got?
That's I think just right off the bat, that's going to be tricky, only because you're still a new name, and I think booking these kind of shows they did in advance to pay-per-views, if you will, to like they're announcing their next live show or whatnot, to where it's not like a machine like WWE is. So I think eventually that steam is going to run out to where, I don't know, unless they keep going to the same places like a little bit of a loop, if you will, but it's not like everywhere like WWE is up and down the map and whatnot. But if
they got to stay in the big name markets that we're going to draw, I would say.
So if they stay in that, maybe, but I don't know, like novelties wear off, you know what I mean? And how many fucking wrestling shows can you go to? Because now with WWE or Raw, SmackDown, NXT, if they're on tour, now you got AEW on tour. And don't get me wrong, I know you marks go to every shows out there, but not every mark goes to every show, and not all the casual fans go to every show. So there's going to be a point though where it's just like I can't cough up any more money for another wrestling show. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a balancing act.
What do you think, Mike?
I think once they finish their tour on the East Coast and then they go out to the West Coast, because they haven't been to the West Coast yet. So once they go out to the West Coast, they're going to sell out some arenas on the West Coast because it's their first time going out there. After they do that whole run in the United States and finally get that in, we'll see. I mean, I think it's wise for them, unless they can keep the hype going and it doesn't wear off. I think it's wise for them to start kind of downgrading in the arena, and that's not knocking them at all. That's just, I'd rather see them in a full arena, doesn't matter what the size of the arena is, than see empty seats because they couldn't sell out a 14,000 plus arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the thing that I said. Yeah, at some point, if they don't sell out these massive fucking, arenas, they're going to have to 205 Live. It was the phrase that I used, because in these smaller markets, I don't know if you guys watch, but, they tape that or they air it after SmackDown, and it's just painful in some of these smaller markets where everybody left after SmackDown, so they just move everybody camera side and they keep the crowd dark like they do for NXT the whole fucking time, because they can't fill it up, and it just seems so quiet in there.
Yeah. Because
nobody gives a shit. They're waiting for that dark match to happen after as a thank you for staying during our 205 Live.
And real quick, back to NXT though, to where I know we're going to talk about some announcers pretty soon, but I think one of the key things for NXT that made me glued to it is Mauro Ranallo. Not even talking about anybody else, just one person. That kind of energy, man. Exactly. I'm telling you, these announcers, and I think that's a great thing. We'll talk about all these announcers in a little bit, but just his energy, just somebody keeping excited. Because, I mean, when you looked at AEW almost, JR... He's an aged JR. He doesn't have that same kind of energy, and I'm saying that he was that third man on NXT to where wrestling's great, the show is great, the announcing is great. It kept your energy level up the whole entire show. So I enjoyed NXT too, though. But I mean, Mike, we do have to say you're the one that watched both at the same time. How did you handle it? Tell us a little bit about that, because like I said, Cooter watched NXT, I watched AEW, you watched both at the same time. How was that?
It was kind of tough. It was tricky, but I managed to do it. I mean, as I mentioned before, I used to do this, when Nitro and Raw were battling each other, where I try to watch both of them at the same time. I flipped back and forth as much. I mean, I watched, as tricky as this sounds, I watched both opening matches simultaneously, and that was tough. But I thought NXT had the better opening match. Other than that, it was a real awesome experience just to be able to finally have two competitive wrestling shows, and you don't know which one you want to watch more, so you just watch both of them. It was fun. It really was. Definitely was.
So I think the biggest question, though, of all this was who won. So I think if we just go around the room and share our thoughts. Guys, at the end of the day, I mean, fans are going to pick a side and vote or whatnot, but at the end of the day, did you pick one over the other?
I did, actually. I watched AEW for the curiosity. I wanted to see what they could do, and they put on a great show. I will tune in next week to watch again. That's how good their show was. But NXT has always been my baby, and Cooter knows this, I've been a huge NXT advocate for years, and they always deliver to me. And I thought NXT had the better wrestling show. AEW had the great, curiosity, introducing new people to me. Sammy Guevara a lot of people didn't know who he was until they watched this match. Now they know that he's actually a real good in-ring talent I think he's like 25 years old. Amazing. But in my personal opinion, I think NXT won, even though they didn't win the rating war. I thought they had a better show.
Yeah, I think from the get, I always knew that AEW was going to win that first rating based on curiosity alone, just because, Raw beat them to the table 2 weeks prior. And what I found so interesting was they didn't put too many of their big guns on those first 2 shows the weeks prior. Since they went live on USA, 3 weeks without seeing Johnny Gargano. But he was on the taping the week before.
Yes, he was there on the opening night.
Right.
But he didn't wrestle.
Didn't wrestle is what I'm saying. To me, it was expected, but I definitely enjoyed NXT more. Not because, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and that I'm an AEW hater. Listen, I'm a prick until you turn me, and I can be turned, and I can admit when I'm wrong. But I still feel like I'm right. I still think that they got a long way to go. They got some building to do. There's a lot of growing pains. And they got to stop some of the stupid, childish booking bullshit. And maybe they'll get somewhere.
So NXT wins for you. All right. NXT is for me too. I think the one big reason for that is just I'm conditioned to these guys. Like, I know who they are. I know Matt Riddle. I know Adam Cole. I'm invested in these guys. I've been watching them for months and years now. So it's like, I want to see what they're doing. Yes, that curiosity factor had me. That's why I watched AEW first. But at the same time, there's a lot of guys and girls on that roster that I never seen before. Why should I get invested now? So, like, I really have to see them every week, and it has to build up on me. And then once I start getting invested, this will be an interesting conversation, 6 months from now, to see who are we still invested in. Because with that time, seeing them every week on TV, do I feel the same way about this? But, I mean, right now, I think it's an NXT win for me just because I'm more invested with these characters, and I want to see kind of what happens to them more than I do the other guys. So, not knocking them at all, because like I said, I enjoyed AEW, but it's one of those things that I guess we just got to watch weekly. So,
I even feel like, I'm going to say this, I think WWE knew they were going to lose that rating because of the curiosity factor alone. I mean, how could you not?
No, of course, yeah. Everybody wants to see what they're going to do, or they're going to make a statement, or somebody going to say something. It's always like, what could happen? And, nothing crazy like that happened. They just put on a show, and that's fine. I mean, we're trying to see what the plan, Brand X is like. They want to see what the other competition is. So,
can't wait to see another DDT in the VIP section, baby.
Well,
right through the glass table. Oh my god!
I will say this though, watching both of them side by side was a workout, but then they actually had the replay of AEW right after, and I actually got to just sit down and just watch that by itself, and like I had a different experience watching the replay. I got to see things that I missed. And even things that I nitpicked, and even other things that were good that I missed earlier. So that's awesome. I thought it was smart for them to put the replay on at the end.
So what are you guys going to do next week, though? Because for me, I had to watch both of them back to back just to see what's going on, but I can't do that every week. I'm 37 years old, pushing 38. I can't get. You know how much wrestling there is this week that I'm still happily married. I'm not gonna get divorced from this, but it's like I can't watch all this you know what I mean? Like it's a job, man. But next week, what are you guys gonna do? Because I think for me, I don't need to watch it live like I do. Like I love watching Raw live. That's my live show every week. You know what I mean? So I'm there for Raw every week. Live. Everything else I DVR and I'll watch when I can. So when it comes down to it, guys, though, what are you going to watch? Maybe live that day, or are you just going to watch it when you can?
No, NXT is getting my live. It has my live rights, and I have a feeling that the AEW is it's going to be DVR'd. I'm going to give it a chance, but I just It didn't do enough for me to be like, you know what? I think they got a shot. They got some good talent, and I think some dumb names in charge. But you know what?
You got to wine and dine you, right? You got to take you out for a few dates first before we
Goddamn
can
right.
get in bed with you, right? I think it's been a great week so far. I mean, like it's only Thursday right now. We still got the debut of Fox this week, WWE on Fox, SmackDown on Fox. So a lot of people are going to be on Fox tomorrow night. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about that next week, or maybe we'll do a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live. I don't know. Maybe we'll surprise people out there. But with all that said, we do have on AEW superstar Darby Allin. Jonathan Benjamin sits down with him, and we get to hear a little bit more about Darby Allin.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another wrestling podcast. I'm JB, and today I'm speaking to someone a little unorthodox, a little new to the scene, but not really. He's been around for a while, making huge waves in professional wrestling. Darby Allin is joining us. Darby, thanks so much for coming on the show. How are you doing tonight?
Awesome.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Now, Darby, you are indeed a household name, and if you got to think back for a few minutes, that's is it a shock to you knowing that you only began your wrestling career less than 4 years ago? Does it surprise you that you're a household name already?
At times, yeah, but other times, absolutely not.
I gotta ask, what was breaking into wrestling like? You know, how were you received by the other wrestlers and the fans, and just kind of how was it to kind of jump into the world of professional wrestling?
A lot of people obviously didn't understand me because I said I wanted, what's your character? What's your gimmick? Oh, I'm myself. No, what's your character? What's your gimmick? You have to be something. No, I'm myself. I feel like that's good enough. And then you just got to shut people up, and that's exactly what I did.
You know, wrestling's a sport with a kind of already short shelf life. Why do you do such risky maneuvers? Because
I have so much outside influences that I want to do outside of wrestling, like filmmaking and clothing company that I'm starting, that if wrestling ended, I would just do that. So I don't give a shit. People, I don't play by anybody else's rules. They got to understand I will be doing crazy things inside that ring or outside of that ring. So just leave me alone.
The riskiest of all of your moves, perhaps, is the coffin drop. Why did you choose that as your signature go-to move?
Because I don't fly to look pretty. I fly to hurt. And me just falling back on someone, I don't need to do 3 rotations to do that. I can just do it, just fall back on him, and that gets the job done. So yeah, I'd say that was a go-to thing because it just looks painful, but it doesn't look pretty.
All right. Now, with all those high-risk maneuvers and the fact that prior to professional wrestling you were a professional skateboarder, what has been your worst injury so far in your career?
Probably broke my elbow with a shovel. That was pretty. But when I got a concussion at a Progress show, that was pretty bad as well because concussions are no joke. And when you feel that, and then for a week straight, you're just like feeling out of the loop and feeling like just totally crazy. Like you don't even know what up and down is. And it just makes you just feel like, are you ever going to be new normal again? So I say mentally the concussion, but physically the broken elbow.
You came to professional wrestling, you know, despite having a career as a professional skateboarder. What drew you into the world of professional wrestling? Why did you decide to make that switch?
Physical. It's like a drama. It's like a play, but it's like physical. So it's like, you know, you think about like stunts on Broadway, like me falling on a skateboard, sometimes in front of like a small group of people, it sucks. But if you fall in front of like thousands of people in wrestling, it's like worth it. You know what I mean? It's like mentally like, okay, I like that. So I would say I just like being like telling a story, going out there and telling a story in front of a bunch of people, and like I said, physical Broadway.
Awesome. Now, Obviously, skateboarding and wrestling are kind of wildly different, but there probably is some of the same things going on there. But coming from never skateboarding before to where you're at now, and coming to never wrestling before to where you're at, which do you feel was the much more difficult one to kind of master?
Skateboarding by far, and it was way more painful.
Really, really, wow.
Way more painful.
Now, you spent lots of time on the independent scene and wrestled very, very high-profile matches at, WWN, Evolve, taking on everybody from Walter to Keith Lee. What were some of your personal highlights during this time? Like, what were the things that really got you, stoked about your time in professional wrestling during that time on the indies?
I don't know, like matches against Walter, probably.
I don't know exactly what your first match was. I don't know what your training was exactly like, but to go from that to about to debut on TNT, Wednesdays, and like what's been the most surreal moment of your career so far? Like, what have you just like after it's happened, maybe some time passed, and you were just like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened.
At AEW by far, because it's the first time I can actually make a living off of wrestling. I don't have to be living in my car. So, yeah, it's definitely anything with AEW.
You've finished up most of your indies. You do have some stuff up in the Northeast to finish, which we'll talk about just in a second. But you just mentioned it, AEW, the big time. No longer living in a car, making money professionally. The world gets to see what you do on a weekly basis. But do you feel like you're gonna miss the indies some? Like, do you feel like that there's parts of it that are gonna kind of, tug at your heartstrings a little bit?
I don't know. That's such a hard one because I feel like people, man, they demand so much from your body on the indies with no payoff. These promoters that want you to kill yourself, they're not going to be there in the hospital bed with you. They're not going to pay your hospital bill, but they want you to kill yourself on their show so they can get YouTube hits. So there's parts of me that I don't give a shit. And then there's other parts where I'm like, the fans and the intimacy of everything. Of course, you're going to miss that.
Okay. All right. Now, I mentioned, here in the Northeast, you are currently the Northeast Wrestling Champion. What's that title mean to you, and what do you think of your upcoming opponent, King Brian Anthony? You go one-on-one with him October 19th, live in Bethany, Connecticut.
Being the champion at Northeast Wrestling, it's a good checkpoint on my career, because when I first started there, like, you'd always hear about it. They have all these like super shows, like Mysterio, like the list goes on of these like just crazy names and stuff like that. So, like that stuff, always like, okay, like to be on the top of that company is a good checkpoint. Like King Brian is a guy like, that, he's been doing this a lot longer, and I think he has a big chip on his shoulder coming into this match for sure, because he sees that I'm kind of out the door, and he wants me to he wants to be the one taking that from me, so taking that championship from me. So, of course there's gonna be a lot of anger with him because he's been doing this a lot longer and stuff like that, and he sees a little skateboard punk rock guy coming in and still in his spotlight for sure.
All right. Well, the life of a wrestler is often spent, traveling, going from place to place, being on the road a lot. When you are on the road, whether it be on, flying from place to place or driving from place to place, what kind of keeps you sane while you're traveling? What do you do to keep you going?
Just skateboarding and music and just working out and stuff like that. It just keeps me it's my therapy.
All right, you just mentioned music. What does a Darby Allin listen to on a daily basis?
All types of stuff, but mainly anarcho punk, like Crass and bunch of bands like that. And yeah, like just stuff that makes me want to take on the world, like Black Flag and all these other bands and stuff like that, you know. So there's a big list of things.
All right. If you had to say, you know, just knowing that everybody doesn't really know you, they just see you, you know, in snippets on television or, you know, matches or whatever, what would you say the biggest misconception that fans or other wrestlers may have about you is?
Is that I want to be wrestling forever.
All right.
I don't.
So you mentioned that you are coming out with like a clothing line. If the door, you know, shuts on wrestling tomorrow or the next day, you know, do you see yourself going back to skateboarding? Do you see yourself with this clothing line? What is on the horizon for Darby Allin?
My filmmaking and my clothing line, for sure.
We saw recently, and I can't believe it, but you did the Death Nut Challenge, and it was pretty brutal to watch. But what are some other, you know, like crazy challenges that you've done that maybe people haven't got to see?
I've done so much weird challenges. I don't even know where to start. I filled up a bathtub full of like over 100 hot dogs, and I took a bath in that, and it's fucking nasty. And then I got pepper sprayed, and then just a lot of stuff. I've been, you know, a lot of challenges that I've had that were far worse than the Death Nut Challenge.
Yes. Now, obviously, with crazy stuff like that going on, people may think, God, he must have been drunk or whatever to do that. But obviously, and some fans may not know this, but you are straight edge. So why did you make that decision to be straight edge, and what does being straight edge mean to you?
I made that decision to be straight edge because I just like being in control of my brain at all times. And if I fail in this life, if I don't achieve everything I wanted to achieve, I can't blame it on alcohol. I can't blame it on drugs. I'm 100% full responsibility of not achieving everything I set out to do.
You've already had some amazing moments in AEW, some, you know, highlight reel moments, but with October 2nd right around the corner, and you being on TNT Dynamite Wednesday nights, what are you after in AEW? Why are you there?
Because it's a company that gives me the chance to be myself. That's like the only reason I really like fall in love with AEW is because it's like, here, be yourself, and that's all I've ever wanted, you know. So.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you live every week now. And is there anything else that you want to get off your chest before you go tonight?
Nah, man. I'm just getting ready for fucking DC.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We will probably see you live also at Northeast Wrestling in Bethany, Connecticut, Autumn and Bush, October 19th. But until then, just congrats on all your success and keep up all the great work.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, man.
Check this out. I got this smoking hot chick I'm going out with this Friday. And I got to tell you, man, I'm grooming myself, and I'm terrified beyond belief to go below the waist with the trimmers I have now. But I got to look good, man.
Let me ask you a question. Are you using the same trimmers on your face that you're going to be using down there, bro? Because if you are, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I am an idiot because they put me in the hospital 2 months ago. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, that's why you got to go and get the Lawnmower 2.0, bro, from Manscaped.com with the skin-safe technology.
So you're telling me that this Lawnmower 2.0 is not going to send me to the emergency room, and I'm going to go with the smoothest balls like a baby's bottom?
Not only that, you can actually wear white underwear again, and that can look like little polka dots with little blood spots all over the fucking place, because your nuts will be safe, bro, from nicks and snags.
How much is this going to cost me? Because I know my trimmers, I got them from like the dollar store for like $3.99. What's the cost on this? Am I going to save some money?
How can you put a price on your yam bag, bro. What the fuck? That's your first mistake right there.
Yes,
okay?
I know. Dude, I'm in a budget, man.
You should be balling on the budget, and there should be no budget for your balls. So step your game up, go to manscaped.com, and get yourself the right tools for the job, goddamn it. Promo code AWP.
All right, once again, thanks to Darby Allin and Jonathan Benjamin doing that interview. Guys,
I just kind of hope we see him on AEW next week because I actually do enjoy watching him.
Yeah, man. One of the, and it's great. One of the smartest moves for Darby Allin was going to AEW because if he would have went to NXT or whatnot right now, he would have killed all his progression of building his own character, being himself. And, they would have turned him into something, like gave him something stupid because they had to rewrite him and they, you know what I mean? So I'm happy that he made the AEW move because he at least gets to progress as himself and be himself for a while. And that's what hopefully will stand out a lot more compared to WWE and how they build their characters and whatnot. But nonetheless, a great addition to AWP this week. But guys, one thing we talked all about AEW, we talked all about NXT, we talked about these shows this week, but we did not mention the announced teams. And that's, I think, I consider the announced team like that third man. If you don't have an announced team, your product isn't going to shine as much. You need these guys calling the spots, talking out there, and making these shows lively. Raw's new announced team will include play-by-play from Vic Joseph, who moved on over there, Dio Madden, and right now, at least for now, WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. NXT is going to be called by Mauro Ranallo, Beth Phoenix, and Nigel McGuinness. SmackDown by Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Renee Young. Guys, a few, and AEW too with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and I still, the guy with the mask, he's still wearing the mask. I don't think he needs the mask anymore.
Take the jock strap off. You're in the fucking big leagues now. Come on.
But either way,
Excalibur.
We have a variety of announced teams now. They shuffled it up a bit, guys. Let's start with one show and work our way around. I'll tell you what, I wasn't impressed with Raw. They have really left these guys out to be the B show now. Raw was the number one main show, and I figured they would just build SmackDown up a little bit to moving to Fox, get the ratings, yada yada yada. But I'm not saying anything bad about Vic Joseph. I love his play-by-play. Jerry Lawler stood out like a fucking sore thumb as like the old guy in the fucking skate park kind of a thing, yeah, he's a veteran of the business, but that's exactly what he is. He's a veteran of the business, and we're gonna get old one day, and I hope somebody doesn't put me on TV when it's a bunch of like 17-year-olds and I have no idea what's going on. But I'll tell you what, other than that too, Dio Madden, he didn't do anything. I feel like there was no variation between the voice, like the guys talking. Nothing stood out for me the whole show. That at one point I was asking myself, has he even talked yet? And I can't remember anything that he said or did anything that night. And no offense, this is just me not used to him or whatnot, but that Raw announced team, man, I'm sorry, Vic Joseph is great, but being with these other guys, I don't think it does anybody any justice for this show. And this is Monday Night Raw, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you feel the same?
Yes and no. I thought Vic Joseph was a little flat because I'm used to him having a little bit more excitement in his voice. He's great when he calls NXT UK, especially when there's a nice high spot. He hits that fucking high note. He's like, oh my God, whatever. Dio Madden was struggling finding his spots, and I feel like Jerry was kind of stepping on his toes a little bit. I was very surprised that, they moved Cole with Corey Graves to SmackDown. And Renee, I really loved the dynamic that they had that 1 week where Vic was actually on Raw with Ross and Renee. I thought Vic Joseph and Cole letting him call the play-by-play was great. And he had very good chemistry with Renee. I'm surprised. I'm sure it's because Fox wants the woman on the announced team, but I think she should have stayed on Raw, and they should have just kept Corey Graves with Phillips and Saxton. That's the question. What the fuck happened with Byron Saxton and Todd Phillips? Are they going to be calling 205 Live now?
I don't know, Mike. What did you think about this? Because are you familiar with Matt and Law from NXT or whatnot? I mean, to me, I didn't know him that much.
No, I'm not. He was never on NXT. I was not familiar with him. I didn't get to hear him much on 205 Live, so watching Raw for the first time was kind of my introduction to him. And exactly what Cooter said, I 110% agree with. I think Jerry the King Lawler was kind of just stepping on toes a little bit. I don't know. Jerry the King Lawler was great in the Attitude Era. Now it's just like he's using the same jokes that he used in 1999.
It's not working.
It's not meshing well with the other two.
And you got to remember, that was a 2-man booth. Now he's in a 3-man booth.
Exactly. And I just feel like Jerry is the person that they got to get rid of. And I understand why Vince might have put him in there because of the experience, and he could probably help these two rookies get through their first time on a live stage like that. But I just hope that they get rid of him soon. And I don't mean get rid of him like fire him. Just bring him back to the panels, the pre-show panels. Let him do his old man jokes there. I think Vic Joseph is great, but I think this is now the time where he has Vince and Kevin Dunn in his ear. So, and I don't know from experience of having Vince and Kevin Dunn in my ear, but from what I hear, it's a terrible experience sometimes because they just want you to say certain things that you don't say or you wouldn't be caught saying, but you have to say it. And I think that had to play a factor with that. And exactly what you said, I agree with you, Credo, where T.O. Madden, D.O. Madden, whatever you pronounce his name, he just was kind of like just the Jason Jordan of the crew. Just
happy to be here.
I'm here. I'm on Raw.
From what I understand, too, that was a Paul Heyman move. I think Paul Heyman wanted Vic and wanted Dio just because he's, fresh, if you will, fresh meat or whatever, just a different dynamic, not being the token black guy, but just, somebody different. It's not the same old. And I'm surprised they even went with Jerry Lawler right now, especially with, I think this is the first time he's been calling live stuff. I mean, since his heart attack, because he would come in for a pay-per-view or something for like a match, but like not the whole show, So I'm surprised they even had that option with the whole, live heart attack a few years ago. So at the end of the day, I'm disappointed with Raw. We didn't get to SmackDown yet, but we know the SmackDown crew. We're kind of used to them already. NXT, I don't mind at all. Beth doesn't bother me. Nigel's great.
That's a well-oiled machine.
And Morrow's awesome. Morrow's the energy. Nigel's like the accent in your ear, if you will, of another voice in there, just can call the shots. And Beth adds to it great. And this dynamic works. That dynamic works. They got something right with that, I think.
Yeah, and those three voices, they don't step on each other.
Nope.
And they all harmonize. They sound good together. Like one doesn't sound too far different from the other one, if that makes any sense.
And I heard someone say this before, and it makes perfect sense. Someone said that you can literally close your eyes and just listen to Morrow tell the story, and it's an amazing sound. I'm not a fan of a 3-person booth, but that 3-person booth just works so well together, and they're the best commentating team in the sport today.
There's no question about it. And I also want to say, holy God, Mauro Ranallo can probably call the fucking thing by himself. For God's sake.
Yeah, he doesn't need anybody.
He doesn't need anybody, but that's the thing. They find their spots, they get in, they get out, and he lets them do their thing. Whereas if it was like Michael Cole, he would just try to shit all over you and fucking step on your toes. Oh, God.
We need to differentiate these shows. New voices, new fresh blood, just something different. I think especially if they're going with a brand new season of each show now, changing it up a little bit doesn't hurt. So
I did read this on the Fabulous Interwebs, most reliable source. I read that Michael Cole is actually starting to kind of try to get himself away from the commentators table and kind of groom other people so he could take a step back and oversee things from backstage, which he oversees the commentating anyway. But I think from what I read, that exactly is what he wants to do now, is where he just wants to groom someone for Raw, have someone take his place once they get established on Fox, and then just kind of oversee everything and be like a contributor in that way. Now, this is coming from dirt sheets and the interwebs, so don't quote me on it, but that's what I read.
No, I agree though. It's like you can't like the late night talk show hosts like David Letterman or Jay Leno. You can't be on the air for like 50 years. Like at a certain point, you got to bow out and just let it move on to the next generation, kind of a thing. And it's not saying that they're bad, but I mean, like look at AEW for example. JR's a great name, but JR was a great name 20 years ago, and he doesn't have that same energy anymore. Tony, I keep saying Terry because I'm thinking Terry Taylor. Tony Schiavone is, I think he still has that energy. I feel like he's been rejuvenated with all the podcasts and stuff that he does now, but just JR, man, I don't know. He's like JR worn out 20 years later. It's still JR, but he doesn't have that same energy. I think he's trying to get that same energy, but I don't know. I don't think it's there anymore for him.
He's down. He's up. He's down.
Exactly.
He's all over the place. There's just no consistency with him. And God damn, it's not just the podcasting with Schiavone. He fell back in love with wrestling again.
Yeah.
Because when he started podcasting, he was just doing it to try to make a few extra bucks to fucking help pay for his daughter's wedding. And then that got him into MLW, which I believe he's still going to do. He started commentating shows for them. And if you hear him on that YouTube, he's so fucking good. Just calling the play. I forget who does it with him. Mike, do you remember who does the MLW? Is that Court Bauer?
Matt Stryker.
That's right. Oh, my God.
This is what I want you guys to do and everybody who's listening to do the same thing. So what I want you to do is right before, like when Paige and Pac came to the ring and right before they go to commercial, just listen to JR and the tone and how he cuts the commercial. Just no energy, no enthusiasm. It's just, he just seems like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. And then listen to that, and then just pick any match with Mauro Ranallo.
So wait, hold on. Who's saying it right? Because every announcer is saying Pac. And I'm like, for fucking like 10 years, I thought it was Pac, like Tupac. But they keep calling him Pac. Is it their accent, or is it Pac, or is it Pac? And I'm like,
it's Pac.
And I'm like, Pac doesn't. I'm like, I feel like finding out that Santa Claus isn't real anymore. I'm like, what? I've been calling him Pac for like 20, and I'm like, now it doesn't. It doesn't fit now. Like saying Pac is like Pac-Man. It's stupid. I don't know. I want to hear. I don't know. Anyway, that just bothered me. I was like, I can't believe I thought it was an accident one week, and then I was like, nope. I guess that's his name. They're really going with that now. So.
All right, I'm gonna throw something out.
Anyway.
Remember how earlier I was saying the NXT announce team, they kind of harmonize. They all sound good together. Is it me, or it's like their voices on the AEW comment are so far from each other, it just seems like they shouldn't even be in the same room. Like you have JR, Sasha Fresh, like whatever, and then you got Excalibur, who's all really, really low, and then it's hi, I'm Tony Schiavone. It's like holy shit, they're all over the fucking place. Like pick an octave. It's just weird, and that's no knock. I'm not trying to make fun of their voices, but I'm just saying. The difference in their tones, it just throws me off. It's very distracting to me.
This is what I think AEW needs, because I mentioned this to you guys, and I mentioned to you earlier that they basically have 3 play-by-play guys going. There's no color guys, and that's what stands out to me the most, because that color guy is very important to that booth. I think they need a Corey Graves type guy in that booth as the color guy, like someone. I'm not saying Corey Graves in general because he's with the WWE, obviously, but someone to kind of like offset that in a way, because I'm getting play-by-play from Excalibur. I'm getting play-by-play from JR. I'm getting play-by-play from Tony Schiavone. I'm not getting the analyst type calls. I'm not getting a color guy type call, and that just throws me off
on that one, because I feel like Excalibur was doing a lot of the play-by-play, and then Jim Ross would come in. I felt like Tony was trying to be that more analyst role where he would just talk about certain things without calling the action. And I thought he was doing a pretty decent job of it because I'm so used to him calling the action. It was kind of a nice dynamic. That was the one thing about it I did enjoy. Oh, and plus, and him calling MJF that little prick.
Little prick.
I love that because that's a joke from his podcast. That's like a little Easter egg for the fans of his show. So, you know, it's fucking great.
Here's the thing you said, though. You said you're used to hearing Tony call the play-by-play, but that's the thing. I'm used to hearing him calling the play-by-play. That's why when he talks, I hear play-by-play. I mean, yeah, I do. He was trying to kind of be that guy, but for me, you know, being a fan of the Monday Night Wars and hearing him call play-by-play and hearing him to this day still call play-by-play, like I'm still hearing a play-by-play guy.
Yeah, I hear you.
Is there anybody out there now, if you could mix maybe 2 or 3 people together, whether it's for WWE or AEW or whatnot, that would be probably a good commentating team? Is there anybody that stands out that you would love to hear?
You know what? I got a great idea. To me, I think you have Excalibur, not as a play-by-play guy. I like him as a color analyst because he does have some good insights. But I would love it if he was with somebody, I don't know, Joey Styles. I think that would be a really exciting team because if Joey Styles could have that energy that he always had, but under control without the screaming and the raspiness part of it, I think that would be a really, really good sounding team. Just a 2-man booth, fuck the 3-man booth. You know, save that for the pay-per-views, but for a fucking 2-hour fucking primetime show, I think you got to go with a 2-man booth. That's, to me, it just sounds the best. Unless you have that well-oiled machine like a Beth Phoenix, Nigel McGuinness, and Amaro Ronaldo, I think you're fucked, man.
What about you, Mike? Anybody that stand out for you that you want to hear each week?
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't. I kind of like. I have to agree with Cooter. Like a Joey Styles, like someone just out of the blue. I would throw a Taz in there somewhere. Taz would be great with the AEW team because he's that color guy.
He's that color guy, yeah.
I would not touch that NXT table. That NXT table is gold. We don't touch that. We leave it alone.
Leave my shit alone, bro.
Somebody who we haven't seen, I mean, somebody who we do see, and somebody who actually has a current job running the show, but I loved Paul Heyman when he would do commentary. Sometimes, when he would come in and do like Raw and, for the ECW matches and all that. I mean, as much work as he already does now, being an advocate and, being the general manager of Raw or whatever he's doing, I don't know. He still has a good voice. He has that kind of excitement. And I think if he transitions out of not managing anybody anymore, put him on commentary. I would love to hear Paul Heyman every week just talk.
Oh, Credo, when you were talking about that earlier, and I was like, that's somebody I would love. But that's one of my favorite WrestleManias was WrestleMania 17. Not just because of all the great matches, because it was Jim Ross and Paul Heyman. And when he called the Kurt Angle Chris Benoit match, as great as a match as that was from a wrestling standpoint, it was just so much better because of the calling from Jim Ross and fucking Heyman just throwing those ad-libs in there. He's probably one of the best. And he only did it for them for a very short time until King came back.
Yep.
Man, and what about this dynamic, which it's never going to happen, but if he's so good at telling people what to say on the headset, I would love to see McMahon just to come out and do a show one night. Once again, I remember they did that old school Raw and it was McMahon or whatever out there, but I want to see, I loved McMahon. I loved him with Jesse the Body Ventura. I love those kind of dynamics where you had like the one jokester, the one serious guy, like Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, or whether him
and Macho Man.
Yeah, so like that time, it worked good. So I don't know, but out of these great shows, I think some of these commentary teams, could shift around a little bit or change as the days progress. But guys, at the end of the day, it was a great week for wrestling for the fans. So next week, though, we do have on Enzo Amore. Enzo, a real one, a real certified G is going to be joining us, guys. We just had Big Cass on, who had a little bit of a downfall. We'll talk to Big Cass.
Don't say it like that. He had a little bit of a downfall.
He did. He had a little bit of downfall. He's with Diamond Dallas Page right now.
Don't say it like that, man. The guy gave us a great interview, and you're going to trash him like that, bro.
Diamond Dallas Page reached out to everybody, gave him an address you could write to him. Maybe you could write some Cass, Big Big Chasm Letters or CazXL. But either
Is that
way,
where he is?
yeah, he's with Paige right now. Yeah, so either way,
DDP is like a god.
he's a savior of all wrestling folk.
He really is.
So get a lot of credit for DDP. But yeah, Enzo will be joining us next week, guys. So tune in for that. AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com for everything and anything AWP.